Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the debut episode of a brand new show. This is Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling, and I'm your host, Curtis Smith. It is great to be with you. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are honored to be a part of the WHMB-TV 40 family and look forward to being with each of you every Thursday at 9:30 in the evening. The goal of this show is multifaceted but relatively simple: to discuss topics pertinent to mental health, to introduce you to Crosswinds Counseling, and to bring you hope as we look at the world of Christian counseling. Crosswinds Counseling is a nonprofit organization which provides Christian counseling to people all over Indiana and partners with nearly 50 organizations across the United States to provide corporate counseling. It's a growing organization that is making a real difference in the lives of people while staying rooted in the biblical foundations and faith in Jesus Christ. A show like this is a major endeavor for Crosswinds, and it would not be possible without the help of our tremendous partners. Some of them are supporting us through this effort tonight. Thank you to those partners: Shepherd Community Center, Prime 47, and Tesco. For this first episode, we thought introducing you to Crosswinds Counseling, the organization as a whole, and getting to know more about the heart of this place was the best way to start. So we've invited Kevin Hedrick, the Executive Vice President of Crosswinds Counseling, to be with us tonight. He'll join us as soon as we come back from this break. Thanks for being with us. We'll be right back.
Shepherd works with both the first and second generation to break the cycle of poverty. It's a two-gen approach to say we want to help the parents and the students to help them have the tools for them to break the cycle of poverty.
You know, it's easy to think programs make a difference, but we know from 35 years of experience, relationships is effective.
In this world, we don't need more programs. We need to know that more people care for us.
Welcome back to Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. This is our first show, and we thought it was appropriate to invite Kevin Hedrick to be our first guest. Kevin is the Executive Vice President of Crosswinds Counseling, and he's been with the organization for 18 years. Kevin, thank you for joining us. Let's start by talking about Crosswinds Counseling, kind of a big picture look at the organization. Tell us about Crosswinds.
Yeah, so we are a Christian counseling agency serving Indiana. Originated in 2012 out of the need to serve individuals, couples, and families. Since 1968, we've been serving families involved in the court system and would oftentimes have the phone ring for people that were looking for services. And the typical phone call would go a little bit like this of, hey, we know what you guys do, and you're serving those teenage boys that have been in trouble, and you know, I've started to have some struggle with my marriage, or struggle with my relationship, or struggle with my teenager, or struggle with addiction.
Right.
Can you guys help? And because we were only working with services in the court system, we'd oftentimes have to say, well, are you involved in the court system? And the family would say, well, no, it's not that bad yet. And we would say, well, once you get in more trouble, call back, and then we'll be able to help when the court intervenes. So we started Crosswinds Counseling in 2012 so we could say yes to more people that finally picked up the phone to say, I'm struggling. I need help. Can you help? And we started to say yes. So we started our counseling centers serving people in Indiana. We've got plenty of counselors in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Indianapolis, Indiana, serving those individuals and couples and families that are reaching out to say help.
I love that attitude of saying yes to more people, because the truth is, while some people are in the court system and have kind of hit rock bottom, there are many, many more people who need help but haven't quite reached that point.
Right. Over the years, counseling has got that stigma of you've got to be on rock bottom.
Yeah.
It's got to be a major crisis before you reach out for help. And we feel like there's a huge population. This isn't a service for somebody on the other side of the tracks. This isn't a service for somebody that is rock bottom. So, you know, as we know, just living in relationship with each other, living in marriages, raising kids, that life is hard, and we were created to do life together. And I think God created us to be in fellowship with each other. And oftentimes, and I'm guilty as a man, of trying to solve my own problems by myself. And it's not the way that we were created to be. And so we'll wait till the last minute to hit rock bottom before we call, because we think that's what counseling is. But we created this whole agency to help normal people with normal life issues, normal life struggles, to navigate to that next step in their life, because we were meant to do it together. If we were meant to be in fellowship with each other, we weren't meant to do it alone.
That stigma you mentioned is very real still in this day and age. I suspect some 9-10 years ago, it was even worse. I feel like it's getting a little bit better, that we're more and more as a society embracing the idea that talking to someone, getting a little help, working through situations is not all bad.
Yeah, I'd agree. Being a Midwesterner, that oftentimes things that are happening on the coast where things get normalized, and I think counseling 10 years ago was a little bit more of a normal service for people on the coast, and it takes 8 or 9 years for it to work its way inland for it to be a normal thing. So I think that stigma is starting to destigmatize. I think it's a more accepted practice of we have counselors and we have coaches, and that we need these things to navigate life. And we're not looked at, by people cross-eyed because we're getting help with something. So, but I think we're only scratching the surface. I think still as a society, we may focus more on physical health and maybe some of the even spiritual health as a normal thing that we want to grow in. But why wouldn't we want to be more emotionally healthy, more mentally healthy? So we've got a long ways to go to continue to break that stigma.
Well, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the pandemic. COVID-19 has probably brought a lot of those issues more to the front for every segment of the population. Just the mental health needs going through the roof here over the last year and a half or so. What have we seen from a Crosswinds perspective during this pandemic?
Yeah, so if there's any positive that came from the pandemic, I do think it is related to mental health. The needs were there before, but they got exposed during the pandemic. So life was already hard. There was already challenges just to navigate normal life. And then you add extra layers to maybe an emotional or chemical imbalance and some anxiety and depression. But then on top of it, let's add on maybe unemployment. Let's add on teaching at home. Let's add on not being able to socialize on top of all those, on top of the already existing issues. Right. So yeah, I think it was just the pandemic exposed all the issues that were already there, kind of put it on steroids, where people said, man, I can't wait any longer. I can't keep doing this new normal. I need help navigating this. So obviously, like many other mental health agencies, our phone has rang off the hook since the pandemic, with not necessarily new issues, still issues of loneliness, still issues of trauma, still issues of addiction, still issues of relationship struggles. It has just been exasperated by the pandemic.
Yeah, that phrase "on steroids" feels like it fits. It just has exploded over these last 18, 20 months or so. Let's talk about the Crosswinds method. What is it about Crosswinds Counseling that makes it unique, makes it better than other sources you might be able to find out there? What is it about how Crosswinds goes into this work that makes it a tremendous organization?
Well, first of all, our mission is changing hearts and bringing hope to individuals, couples, and families. And we've got several unique differentiators, faith being one of them, that we don't run from us being a faith-based organization. That doesn't mean we only work with people of faith. We want to serve people of all faiths or no faith. But faith is the common thing that brings us together to really have kingdom impact. So we've got a team full of wonderful, grounded Christian counselors and team members that really want to bring hope to a hurting world. So faith is probably our first. We do what we do to try to restore hope in individuals. Family is another. Everything, I started earlier with saying we can't do this alone. We're not meant to be just individual beings. We're meant to be in fellowship with each other. So we try to incorporate the family into everything that we do as a support service to navigate those relationships so that families can be healthier. And then really lastly, just trying to eliminate barriers. We know because counseling still has that stigma, we want to meet people where they are. So if that means that we're using technology, if that means we're using our online resources, text resources, if we're in people's home, if they're coming to our office, we want to eliminate the barriers to people getting the help that they need. So we spend a lot of time of trying to identify what those barriers are and eliminate those barriers so we can get past that stigma of people not getting the help they need.
Kevin, great stuff. There is more to Crosswinds Counseling than simply meeting with individuals and families and working with youth. We're going to talk more about that with Kevin coming up in just a moment. We'll be right back.
In the heart of downtown Indy, at the corner of Pennsylvania and Maryland Streets, it's Prime 47, the city's only independent, locally owned and operated steakhouse, offering gourmet dishes, the highest quality steaks, fresh seafood, and an extensive wine list. Prime 47 specializes in large parties and events. So, whether it's dinner for 2 or 200, it's prime time you visit Prime 47, Indy's Steakhouse, for the finest in dining.
Welcome back. I'm Curtis Smith. Thanks for being with us. Each week, we will take a few minutes to introduce you to a counselor from Crosswinds Counseling. Tonight, we meet Tim Gillian. He joins us to talk about what it looks like to find and work with a counselor.
Hi, I'm Tim Gillian. I am a licensed mental health counselor and a clinical supervisor here at Crosswinds Counseling. Today I want to talk a little bit about counseling and what to expect when you come in for a first visit. I heard a statistic recently that said before our pandemic we're in right now, diagnosable mental health conditions were at about a 15%. And today they're closer to 40%. That means that there is a lot of people out there right now who are struggling and hurting and need some kind of support, some kind of assistance, someone to come alongside them and to listen. Someone who maybe is outside of, I have family, I have friends, or maybe I don't, but I need someone who is a third-party perspective, someone who's maybe not emotionally involved in my situations, who can come from that outside perspective and add another element to the struggles that I'm facing. A lot of people struggle just coming in the door because they don't know what to expect on that first session. When you come see me, we are going to just take some time to get to know each other. You don't know me, I don't know you. We want to see if this is a fit between us. The number one thing that predicts if counseling will be successful is if there's a good client-counselor match, okay? So we're going to get to know each other. You can ask me some questions. I'm going to ask you some questions. I've got a kind of a list of things I want to get through with you, kind of going to interview you in a sense. We're going to hit a lot of different topics. I'm going to get a lot of general information. And then as we go on, if we decide to proceed together and work together on some of these things, then we'll get more in depth as time goes on. But I say all that to say no pressure. Come in the door, let's get a chance to just talk and see if there's a match and see if we want to proceed on working on some things together and hopefully offering you some hope and peace and an outlook and getting some healing.
Thanks, Tim. Kevin Hedrick, the Executive Vice President of Crosswinds Counseling, is joining us tonight to talk about the organization. Kevin, you mentioned a few minutes ago, 1968. There is a partner organization for Crosswinds that it was birthed out of. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, being part of a family of organizations, we have our original organization that started in 1968 called Lifeline Youth and Family Services. And in fact, that's where I got my start 18 years ago. All working with court-ordered services, residential group homes, and then court-ordered family services, counseling, casework, case management, supervised visitation. Dated all the way back to 1968. And about 20 years ago, when we got into home-based services, our model started to shift, which started to set the path for helping families where they are, which sometimes meant before the court system, hence Crosswinds starting in 2012. Right.
You also mentioned in the first part of our discussion, being an organization of faith, coming at this from the perspective of biblical foundation and rooted in Jesus as our Savior, but working with people who don't share that faith. What does that look like from the Crosswinds perspective?
Yeah, being a private Christian counseling agency is unique and one of our differentiators, but we don't want it to be part of us that drives people away from us. So we still work with people of all faiths. So we're not about shoving our faith down people's throat. We're not coming in and judging people based on their belief system. We are doing what we do because of our own faith. We're loving people right where they are. So we take an approach of action more than words. So we want people to know that we are a faith-based organization and people of faith based on how we treat them, not based on the things that we're saying or based on the judgments we may have for them. So we love them right where they're at.
Let's talk about two other things that Crosswinds does. We've talked a lot about working with individuals and families and youth. Schools and workplace counseling. Let's talk about schools first. You guys connect with a lot of school kids.
Yes. So being a private agency, the unique part about that is we get to identify where a need is and then go meet that need. So school counseling is one of those where several years ago, school counselors got pulled out, mental health counselors got pulled out of schools, mainly because of funding. So we identified, wow, our youth are suffering and they need support, and schools need support with that as well. So we're in 25 different schools providing school counseling to middle school kids, high school kids, even elementary kids, where we do blocks of time during the day. The teachers who know the kids the best are identifying what kids may have personal struggles or family struggles. So when we come in for that block of time, the teachers have already lined up many kids for us to meet with that week and on an ongoing basis to try to get to our youth and support the schools and all that they're trying to do.
Wow, that's amazing. And difficult work?
Absolutely. It's already difficult for teachers to do what they do,
right?
But to ask them to be counselors and to deal with all the issues on top of it. So we hope to just eliminate one of those needs of a teacher, one of those skill sets that a teacher has to have of trying to be teacher and counselor. Let them just be teacher. Us provide some of that counseling support, which also helps the education process.
Right. Let's talk about partnering with corporations. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, nearly 50 of them already partnering with Crosswinds for corporate counseling. What does the corporate counseling model look like in Crosswinds?
Yeah, so we created a corporate counseling program nearly 4 years ago when unemployment was really low. All employers, including us, were trying to find unique ways to keep employees engaged in the organization and certainly within the organization. So we created our corporate counseling knowing that if people are healthy, they're ultimately more productive. When they're healthy and more productive, they find more joy in their job. When you're finding more joy in your job, you're more likely to stay in that job. So, but there's still that barrier of why aren't people getting healthy within the workplace? And so it may be finances. It may be that my employer doesn't support mental health services, and maybe they do support physical health. There's lots of Y memberships that people offer, and I love the Y, and that helps with my physical health, but it doesn't on that mental health side of things. So we partner with agencies to eliminate that barrier of decrease the stigma. Corporations are then paying for their employees to get 5 counseling sessions so that that employee is a healthier person, so that we're not fooled by thinking if we have personal issues that are going on outside of work, that when we come to work, that doesn't impact our day-to-day lives. It does.
Today, employers face a different challenge. It's hard to find employees for different reasons than it was 4 or 5 years ago. But offering more to your employees, providing this service to employees is as important or maybe more important than ever.
Yeah, I agree. As employers look to fill back up their workforce coming outside of the pandemic, the employment has shifted and the workforce has shifted. There's more issues today than there was 2 years ago.
Right.
That employers have a responsibility of helping their employees through. So, and they don't always know how to do that. So again, we let them be the expert of being the employer. Let us be the expert at the counseling end of that.
Great. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us on our debut episode of Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. It was great to meet with you and to hear more about the organization. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Kevin just told us about the corporate counseling services of Crosswinds Counseling. Businesses, schools, and churches of all sizes are utilizing these services. Crosswinds has a unique corporate counseling program that is meeting the needs of employers to help better support their employees. This program offers so much more than a typical EAP. When your employees call into Crosswinds, they reach our caring staff to help them set a time to meet with one of our counselors. Not a list of other companies for them to call and try to find help. Such a huge difference. The Crosswinds Corporate Counseling Program is unique in that you only pay for services used by your employees, not a monthly fee, regardless of whether the service is used or not. We also support your company with webinars, seminars, and monthly newsletters. At Crosswinds, we understand that counseling is personal, and we want to have that relationship with your company so your employees are comfortable reaching out to Crosswinds counselors. If you would like to learn more about how your organization can become part of the Crosswinds Counseling family of corporate counseling partners, here's the website to go to. You can visit us at crosswindscounseling.org/CCC. You see it right there on your screen, crosswindscounseling.org/CCC. We'll be right back.
Shepherd works with both the first and second generation to break the cycle of poverty. It's a two-gen approach to say we want to help the parents and the students to help them have the tools for them to break the cycle of poverty.
You know, it's easy to think programs make a difference, but we know from 35 years of experience, relationships is effective.
In this world, we don't need more programs. We need to know that more people care for us.
In the heart of downtown Indy, at the corner of Pennsylvania and Maryland Streets, it's Prime 47, the city's only independent, locally owned and operated steakhouse, offering gourmet dishes, the highest quality steaks, fresh seafood, and an extensive wine list. Prime 47 specializes in large parties and events. So, whether it's dinner for 2 or 200, it's prime time you visit Prime 47, Indy's Steakhouse, for the finest in dining.
Welcome back. Each week here on Restoring Hope, we will carve out a few minutes to talk about that word in the title of our show, hope. It is a critical word. Jesus is the hope of the world, and we are living in a world that seems hopeless at times. So making sure we have a firm foundation on the biblical truth that God has given us is more important now than ever. Tonight, we introduce you to Abe Hepler, one of the executives at Crosswinds Counseling. He takes a look at the challenges we face in this life and points us towards the one source for true and eternal hope, Jesus Christ.
Hi, I'm Abe Hepler. If you're anything like me, if your life is anything like mine, I find myself living at a crazy pace. I have 2 teenage kids, an 8-year-old, and my wife and I's schedules, and when you mix all of those things together, we are constantly on the go. One of the things that I have learned about myself is that when the pace of my life is this busy, when I'm not getting consistent rest, I also discover that I start to feel hopeless. Like there's no end in sight to the times that feel hard and challenging and difficult. And if you feel this way, this is not new. Lots of people feel this way, and in fact, lots of people have felt this way throughout history. There's a passage, an idea in the book of 1 John in the New Testament that I want to share with you. It's found in 1 John chapter 3. And in 1 John chapter 3, John is writing and he says this, "Dear friends, now we are children of God. John starts by describing who we are right now in this moment. Through Jesus Christ, we have been declared to be children of God. And then he says, and what we will be one day in the future has not yet been made known. But what we do know is that when Jesus Christ appears, we shall be like him, for we will see him as he is. And everyone who has this hope purifies himself just as Jesus is pure. Now, John's making a couple of points here, but ultimately what he says is, all of us feel in the moment like there are difficult, challenging, hard things to face, and there are. There are difficult and challenging and hard things to face, but there will come a day when Jesus Christ is coming back for his people. There is an unimaginable future waiting for us outside of these challenges. Christ is coming back for his children. There will be a time when everything we're facing gets made right. And when we feel overwhelmed, when we feel like we can't take it any longer, if we'll stop and look to the future that we have been promised, if we'll just look to what's coming, we discover hope.
Tonight you learned a little about the state of mental health needs across the Hoosier State, been reminded about the eternal hope we have in Christ, and been introduced to Crosswinds Counseling. One thing that Kevin mentioned earlier this evening is that while the need for mental health services is high, the need for mental health providers is equally high. If you're a counselor, therapist, or mental health provider, and you would like to pursue a career with Crosswinds Counseling, good news. We are looking for great men and women to pour into the lives of people and make a real difference. To see the career opportunities at Crosswinds, you can visit this website that you see on your screen at crosswindscounseling.org. And if you know people who are looking for work in this field, please let them know about Crosswinds Counseling as well. Right now, we need passionate people to join us in the impactful work of bringing hope to people. We'll be right back after a short message from our partners. Welcome back, and thank you for being with us on our inaugural episode of Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. We are so excited about this, and a huge thank you again to our partners, Shepherd Community Center, Prime 47 downtown, and Tesco. We're going to be back next Thursday at 9:30 as we meet two organizations working with Crosswinds, and 2 weeks from tonight with Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch. Have a great night.